we still have to realize, we have to have an understanding of what the dangers are that face us out there, but we also have to understand the role that we can play in our own safety. And, there really is actually a lot more support out there for us than what we've been led to believe, particularly over the last probably 10 years.
John, pleasure to connect with you and have you up here. We're out here at the COPS conference in Chicago. Why don't you tell me a little bit about you, your backstory, what you're involved in?
My name's John Bennett. I'm a board member and corps trainer with Below 100. I actually retired February 1st of this year after 28 years on the job from an Illinois, a downstate Illinois police department. I also work as a control tactics instructor at a local police academy, and then I work for a mobile training unit in Southern Illinois.
So you're staying busy?
I'm probably busier now than I was before I retired.
Let's talk about Below 100. For people who have never heard of it before, what is it?
It's an officer safety program that aims to reduce the number of line of duty deaths across the United States to below 100 for the first time since 1943.
Wow, 1943. How did that number climb so much, do you think?
Well, that's a good question because it kind of goes into our mission, okay? If you look at line of duty death numbers across the decades, 1944, 54, 64, 74, we reached a high of about 280 officer line of duty deaths in 1974. And obviously there was a lot going on in this country at that time, a lot of civil unrest, very dangerous time to be a police officer in this country. But then in 1984, it rolls around and we had about 180 line of duty deaths. So we were able to reduce that number by about 100 in just a 10-year period. So we usually contribute that to advances in medicine. We've got officers surviving injuries then that would have proved otherwise fatal in previous decades. Body armor comes on the scene, and then we finally get police training. So from that time on, the numbers have continued to go up and down throughout the years. We average, on average, probably about 140, 150 line of duty deaths every year. So we have been able to get them to, I don't know if stabilized is the right word,
right.
But we're still working at trying to get those numbers down. And we do that by focusing on the elimination of preventable line of duty deaths. And so to get back to your original question, what we're seeing is every year there are a large number of line of duty deaths that in some way could have been preventable in situations where officers significantly contributed to their own deaths. Driving too fast, not wearing body armor, not wearing their seatbelts, becoming complacent, and what have you. So I think a lot of that has to do with the numbers that we're seeing today.
You talked a little bit about civil unrest back in the 70s, but we're starting to see that again. I mean, we see it with some of these riots that are happening. We see it up in Portland. How do we prevent our country from going down that road and seeing those numbers climb again in a period of more civil unrest?
Well, obviously life is a lot different today, especially with social media and the internet. Back in the 70s, even in 1990, when I first started, the first watershed incident that I experienced in my career was the Rodney King incident in 1992. And that video was taken with basically a shoulder-mounted or a handheld video camera, and in order for somebody to be able to get that out to the masses, it had to go to a local news outlet, and then they had to to share it nationwide. And now we've got everybody has a platform because everybody has a cell phone, and they can have something uploaded to the masses within seconds. So awareness is a huge part of that. We still have to realize, we have to have an understanding of what the dangers are that face us out there, but we also have to understand the role that we can play in our own safety. And, there really is actually a lot more support out there for us than what we've been led to believe, particularly over the last probably 10 years.
Yeah.
And if you look at the polls, whether it's Gallup or Quinnipiac or, some of the others out there, we're seeing consistently high numbers, higher than what we thought was out there. So it's taking kind of, I guess, a holistic approach. I know it's kind of a buzzword, but looking at things from, you know, the totality as opposed to just, you know, focusing on certain aspects of what we're seeing and what we're hearing.
Why is this such a personal mission to you?
You know, we want to save lives, period. You know, I was on the job for 28 years. I had a personal situation where I was involved in I ran a part-time, it was an academy program for part-time police officers. And so when they didn't go, you know, whereas a small agency can't afford to send an officer to the 12 or 14 week in-house academy, full-time academy, so this was a program that took place over the course of 10 months. And so I had an officer that went through that program with us back in about 2007, 2008, and he worked for a small rural agency in my area and got himself involved in pursuit one evening in 2010 and ultimately lost his life in that. So, you know, that my passion for this, you know, was there before that, but then things like that just kind of steal your resolve. And then when we take a look at the fact that most of these line of duty deaths every year are preventable, you know, that's something that we have to do. We've got to save officers' lives because this job takes enough from us as it is without us adding to it.
No doubt. How can people learn more?
Below100.org, our website. Follow us and like us on Facebook. I actually run our Facebook page for a while, have for several years now. Request training. You know, we can come and we can put on you know, just the typical 4-hour below 100 program, or we can also put on an instructor certification program as well. Really, all people have to do is just reach out to Below 100 and let us know what it is that they need, and we'll do whatever we can to help them. Awesome. And even help, you know, put this program together in their agency.
Awesome. Brother, thanks for the work that you're doing.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for sharing
much.
your story. Guys, thank you for hitting the share button on this video. God bless America.